But the Bible says that the poor will always be among us, and that's not saying anything mean. It's stating a fact. There's always going to be poor people, and somebody does have to look after the poor. I understand. But being poor does not give a person the license to become a gang member. I mean, you can't become a gang member and go, well, I'm just doing this because I was poor. So there's absolutely no other way to make any money that doesn't involve shooting at your neighbors.
Yeah, see, but this is the progressive media narrative that they're working so hard. They're working overtime.
That they were driven to that point.
Because basically the poor, and let's just not put too fine a point on it, black people are just, this is what they're going to do when they get poor. They're going to riot. They're going to join gangs.
And they don't see that,
they don't see that as racist at all to say that, And
in the meantime, they're pointing fingers at people like you and me, calling us the racist and the bigot, saying that we hate poor people when, newsflash, we are the poor people. They're including us in the narrative and pointing the finger at us and saying this is our fault. Because they've done that. President Obama more or less said that it's what happened in Baltimore. If the Republicans had gave me some more money to work with, maybe this might not have happened. So let me get this straight. This is you just Bush wasn't standing close enough, so you just fired the shotgun at Republicans and hope some of the pellets land. This is somehow, even though that Baltimore is a city controlled by Democrats, somehow or another, it is the Republicans' fault that their inner city is so, poverty stricken, and those people are so desperate. It's somehow or another, it is the Republicans or the conservatives' fault.
Well, see, they've thrown a lot of money, the Democrats, in their war on poverty,
right,
which started back with during the Johnson administration.
Well, it's working because they ain't poor no more.
Oh.
They're all loaded.
Well, like one of the stories that I was quoting in the blog the other day, they talk about how much conservatives seem to hate poor people, and the only proper response to that is to say, absolutely, we certainly do. We want to make them all rich. And that's what conservative or libertarian solutions are. Get the government out of the way. Get this war on poverty bullcrap out of the way. And how about deregulating so that a poor person in Baltimore could start a business and actually have a chance at succeeding? But all these Democrat policies, Democrats love zoning. Oh, how they love zoning.
Well, that's because they're firm believers in letting the state raise your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Or letting the community raise your kid.
They hate school choice. They hate the fact that a black kid from the inner city can leave that neighborhood and go to a better school than the one. They want to keep them in that neighborhood, in that school. But hey, it's us who are the racists.
Right. Oh, exactly. Exactly. I got another. I couldn't just, when I heard that clip, I couldn't just let that one sit. I had to find something to counter it.
Something to take the bad taste out of your mouth.
Yeah.
I understand. I hear you.
So as I was looking around, I came across this other clip from ESPN of all places. All right. What had happened was Ray Lewis from the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, I heard what
retired
Ray Lewis had
middle
to say.
linebacker.
Ooh.
It
Go
was
Ray.
one of the most passionate speeches I've heard in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he told a lot of hard truths.
Well, Ray Lewis is not known for sugarcoating nothing.
No, no. And they were, since he's a sports figure, that's where ESPN comes in. And Stephen A. Smith got a chance to speak on not just the Ray Lewis video, but about what's going on in Baltimore and around the nation, not just in Baltimore. I mean, a lot of wisdom poured out of Stephen A. Smith, and this counters the narrative from MSNBC.
On Sirius XM, I see a lot of athletes are trying to do the same, and you just look at what's transpiring, and something needs to be said. We got a lot of folks out there that are suffering and going through trials and tribulations, and we talk about police brutality. We have to understand the difference between police brutality and a brutal act by a particular police officer. When you say police brutality, what you're doing is you're inciting a nation of individuals out there to go and act in a very belligerent and, dare I say, criminal fashion against law enforcement officials. And where do you think that's going to get them? What do you think is going to happen to them? You really, really think that you can go up against law enforcement officials? First of all, you're wrong. And more importantly than anything else, you're not going to win. And if you lose, you're not going to just lose in terms of a battle with them. You may lose your life. And so we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to spread the message to them that, again, violence is not the answer. And then when you get into the rioters, the looters, those engaging in vandalism, the part that I find incredibly disgusting is how anybody out there could sit there and support those kind of actions. Our president, Barack Obama, stated it best: they should be treated like criminals. You are victimizing and vandalizing your own community. The very people that you're sitting there and claiming to be in unison with in terms of being victims, not having your needs, your desires addressed or what have you, are the very people you're looting and vandalizing and all of that other stuff. It's irresponsible, it's criminal, it's unnecessary, it's wrong, and that needs to be said. The other thing that I'd like to say is this. On many, many occasions, we are so quick to point out the things that professional athletes do wrong. But by and large, the vast majority of them are doing the right things. When I think about a Dwayne Wade, when I think about a Kobe Bryant, when I think about a LeBron James, when I think about a Carmelo Anthony, who also is from Baltimore and spoke out against this, the list goes on and on. You have successful individuals that do serve as an example of what you should be striving not only to do, but to be, because of the way they've grown. The maturation process has infected their life, and the way they go about the business of conducting themselves on a day-to-day basis. And it ain't just because they're successful. They're successful because they were wise enough to know how to conduct themselves before they became successful. So these are all the things that I would think that people would look at and recognize and appreciate, because we got some problems out here, just like Ray Lewis said. We certainly have some problems within the African American community, but one of the biggest problems we have is that we're not looking inward. We're busy looking outside at everybody else, what everyone else has done to us, what history has done to us, how it has affected us, etc., etc. But guess what? I'm here to tell you something. I haven't heard this said, Skip, on the airwaves. Our ancestors, considering our history and what they had to go through and the sacrifices that they had to make to get us to this point, our ancestors will be ashamed.
That's right.
Of how we're conducting ourselves.
That's fair.
And it needs to be said, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be stopped. Because I see a whole bunch of young brothers and sisters out here right now. They're here with us. Yep. They wouldn't act that way. They wouldn't act that way. There's no excuse for this, and it's a no-win proposition. You are going to lose if you continue to conduct yourself this way, and more importantly, if you pick up the phone, go on Twitter or social media or whatever, and condone this type of behavior. Yeah. That's hooliganism. That is criminal activity going on, and it is against our own community.
All right. To sum up, anger is not an excuse for racism. All right? And you can't blame blame an act like this riot on 400 years of oppression when you have come so far, further than your ancestors ever dreamed.
When the President of the United States is a black man, when I do not think he's a good president, but he is president. He was elected, and black people didn't get him elected.
No.
I mean, they helped, but without the white vote,
But
the
you
man
know,
would not be in office. Eric Holder would not be over the Department of Justice.
It is racist for anyone to suggest that it's okay for them to do that because of their history based upon their race. That's insane. That's racist right there, all by itself. Think about this. Where Casey and I live, once upon a time, a long time ago, there was some white folks here that didn't want black people coming through on a bus. And they firebombed that bus. Them white folks was super duper wrong. Am I correct there?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, it was wrong when white folks was targeting everybody of color or that was Catholic or Jewish. Basically everybody that wasn't Southern and white, more or less.
Pretty much.
But when it was the Ku Klux Klan and they were targeting a specific race, that was behavior that could not be tolerated. From the White House came that proclamation that kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated. And we will send the National Guard down there to make sure that you people act right. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they said they ain't never going to be, no black people at the University of Alabama going to stand there and bar the doors, right? Federal government said you can't do that. So us down here in the South, we seem to have figured this out, that, oh, yeah, we can't do that. It's wrong for white folks to target other folks that's different colors just because they're different colored. Well, it is just as wrong to say, let's shoot all white cops. Wouldn't you say that's wrong?
I would say that's wrong. Man,
it's
actually,
not just bad when white folks do it. It's bad when another race decides to
when you decide
bring about race.
that somebody that you don't know, never met, never spoke to, they got to die because of any arbitrary thing. Whether they happen, because see, they're not just going to target white cops. They're going to target black cops. They're going to target anybody in uniform because, hey, the black cop must be a sellout, right?
No, that's true. That's true.
So what it is, it's an arbitrary targeting there based on a lack of knowledge of the other person's content of character. They're just basing this violence and this hatred on some arbitrary kind of stuff here. And no matter how you look at it, no matter what you think has been done to you, you can't justify targeting people you don't know. Now, look, I understand. If you happen to be standing there when some man shoots your sister and you shoot that man, hey, there's a time when violence is an answer. This ain't one of them.
No.
This ain't one of them.
And, like all of the stories of this nature, when, they're screaming for justice, right? That's all they want out of this is justice. Even though they ended up with toilet paper and Doritos, it's justice that they want. Okay.
Right.
Well, it would be justice if this particular incident was investigated and every aspect of it was made public.
Right.
That
Transparency.
Transparent, right? And if there is a need to convene a grand jury, to see if these officers did anything wrong, do it. They say you can indict a ham sandwich. All right. But They've never let that process